your microphone.
Unmute number 2.
There you go.
Hi.
Thank you, Dinah. My goodness. Now, at the end there, it said, and you and Luba didn't seem to believe it when and we're going to introduce one of the visiting teams shortly, but the ads for the hotel and the airplane. Apparently not.
Well, no, he used them all regularly, but we didn't. The producer was Raphael Markowitz, and he had a penchant for just flying off to places, going to hotels. So we all said, you know, could I come? Could I fly to see my grandmother? She's dying. We'd say anything to him.
And he played a double role on the series, I understand, the role of Gardner Westbound. Was
Oh
that?
yes, he invented Gardner Westbound. We loved that. That was the funniest thing.
I know people caught that. Gardner Westbound was the name of the announcer at the end of the show. So if you drove here on the Gardner Westbound, that's a little tribute to Partygate. How did you come to be part of the show?
He was very smart, actually, Riff. He'd had a children's show called Brandy Dandy. If you're 78 years old, you will remember that. Maybe not, but he did. And on it, he would bring in a beautiful witch of the good witch of the something or other would turn up, and I would turn up with a guitar to sing to the kids, and it was all kids, and children watched that. And Riff had 2 or 3 years, I think, of it, I guess probably with CH.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he said, no, you know, my favorite game in the world is charades, he began to bring in the people he knew in the area and had worked with, and we would go to the Windsor Arms Hotel where he had a very large, fabulous suite, and we'd play charades for an evening or an afternoon. And Billy and Jack were pretty well set, I think, when I was brought in, but there were a lot of other women he took a look at too, and it just worked with the three of us to please him, so he asked us to.
I only remember the three of you as the home team, and Mike, you guys could have been on the Olympics of charades. The shorthand was
and that was only year 4 that we were starting.
Was this something you were proficient at before the show?
It was our very most favorite game, period. Party game, that party game. We kept saying, just call it charades, Randy, just call it charades in any case, because now people still stop me and say, what was the name of that? Party game was his choice, and he kept to it. But it was, I guess, the most possible fun anyone could have, and they still paid us. You know? Don't know why. We would have just driven from anywhere to do it.
Bill Walker was the host we saw there.
And first it started with a friend of yours hosting.
Well, Al Beliska, I remember, who I think was a disc jockey at Chum back in the day, right?
That's right.
Did he do the first 2 seasons? Or?
I think he did, and it was just after the 2nd season that we lost him.
Yeah. Is this one of those shows where you might shoot 3 or 4 in a day, or 5 in a day?
Yeah, we worked up to that. We did a couple a week, and then we built rather quickly. I think probably this year was for sure 5. Wait, Luba, where are you, darling? Yeah, did we do 5 that day?
Yes.
Yeah. So we were on to 5, and the bizarre thing was, Bill, that we would go in, and not be casual, but we'd be prepared to be on camera by 10:15 or so. We'd turn up at 9, and we had makeup artists and hair artists, and we'd be ready to go for the first thing. Then we'd bet each other we could put 3 in a can before we take it to lunch break. Sometimes we had 2 in a can, and eventually we were able to do 3, then a small luncheon. We all agreed, crew as well, of course, because this is through June and July. At that time, we were going from May through to July, and you need, I know, well, you know, 5 times. You need a daily show. You have to turn it
right,
out, you know.
Right. And so, was this like, I've spoken with some of the people who were on Match Game, another game show that was on around the same time.
So it's still played.
Still playing. There's a new Canadian version, but back in the 60s, 70s, and they would tape 5 in a day. They would have that lunch break, have 2 or 3 cocktails, and then come back. And those last 2 shows were always highly entertaining. Did this happen on Party Game?
Well,
Yes.
My pleasure to introduce from the Royal Canadian Air Force, Luba Goy. Luba. Please have a seat.
Thank you very much.
Still doing the.
Thank you very much.
Can you do the sheep noise still? Yeah.
Yes, I was Gentleheart Lamb on the Care Bears.
Oh, nice.
Gentleheart Lamb loves everybody.
Now, at this point, we saw this episode, you were introduced as the Jest Society.
That's
so this
right.
predates the Air Force, but probably just barely.
I
don't
didn't
think.
realize that it was the Jest. See, before Air Force, it was the Jest Society. After Pierre Trudeau's, we will have a Just Society.
Right.
And so we called ourselves the Jest Society. They actually started in Montreal, and I joined them up with them. But isn't this great? Like from the sublime to the ridiculous, the statuesque goddess.
And Dinah, who were some of the other guests who were on?
Well, the
this?
National Ballet Company, because they worked together
Yes.
and could be together on the road, would work their little butts off when they'd been invited to come and take us on.
Like who? Like Karen Kane or
Yeah,
Rudolph Nureyev?
all of the greats.
Wow.
And they would, but they had time through the year to do
Wow.
charades for each other, so they had their signs, and they were hip and they were smart, and we really had to work with that stuff. But there were times where people would come, one person from Vegas, one person from New York, and another person from Ottawa, and they'd be on the team, never having met each other before. There they were. So we'd be asking the writers, please give us 7 lines of Shakespeare. Help us. They can't keep losing like this. We gotta
Right.
we gotta lose ones. for
Because you
them."
guys were like the Harlem Globetrotters, pretty much.
We're so,
Yeah.
by the time the 10th year came, it was very short, the show. I was singing a whole lot of songs to fill, I think.
The guest star, the visiting team, the one that I remember that made quite an impression as a young lad was Nicole Moran. Now, my goodness, Nicole, that was like, ladies and gentlemen, before the internet, before you could get porn on the internet, you could watch Nicole Moran on Party Game.
That would be enough,
Yeah.
just to see her.
My goodness.
And she was smart as a whip, but because she had a voice like this and a body like this, and everyone thought she was dumb. But she would get on that thing and rip through a charade and just be very calm, and people just really falling on the floor.
It seemed to wear quite provocative.
She couldn't help it,
Yes.
darling, with a body like
Right.
that. If you could just put on these tired old jeans and a sweater, she still would have made you drool. Not that you're not making me drool.
No, please.
Isn't he adorable? Let's have a
Oh,
big
for
round of
goodness
applause.
sakes.
Bill Brioux,
Tell me more about Riff Markowitz. Don't encourage that.
Riff Markowitz.
Riff. What kind of a name is Riff?
Riff. Well, it was Raphael for 20 minutes, and it was
If I
Randy.
married him, it'd be Riff Goy. Goy Riff. Riff. Riff.
You're riffing on Riff. From what I understand, most of the show is missing. Like, you can't watch your series. There's not every episode is preserved. Is
No, but that really wasn't Riff. That was CH.
Oh.
All we could figure, because this is, I've never seen this one, but on the World Wide Web there's a clip of me doing one, a clip of Billy doing one, and a clip of Jack doing one charade each, and that's all.
Did you do an episode of Check It Out, Luba?
No, I did not.
Oh.
Oh, yes, no. I can't remember that.
I can't. I would remember if you were there. You and I would have been giggling.
No, I don't think I did. No.
My father did.
Sadly.
Do you still play charades?
No, well, I would, but I'm out in the farm all by myself, and I've got a ginger cat. Okay, honey, this means sounds like. Sounds like.
Billy, not only did he didn't know nothing about computers, he couldn't even type. So every time his hands had to type, it would be the professional guy, the computer guy, our coach. His hands would come and go. But Billy would be like, so where do I? And truly, he did not even know how to type.
Well,
And-
I remember Billy Van, of course, from the hilarious House of Frankenstein. I'm sure
Yes.
many of you remember that show.
And he was on the Sonny and Cher show.
He
Sorry
was
to
on
interrupt.
Sonny and Cher, but on
And he-
Frankenstein, he played every single role. I was like 30 before I realized he played all those characters.
The hag.
Yes, and you know, on the Sonny and Cher show, he quit because he was such a fantastic, phenomenal comic and brilliant, writer, that he would come up with these lines, and then Sonny would go, I want that line.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more coverage from the 2014 Canadian International Television Festival. We'll be back next year, and so should you.